Good morning, Simon Thomas, Managing Director of Ridgefield Consulting.
Helen Thomas, CEO of Blonde Money.
And here we are. It feels like we were doing this every week, but it goes so quick, doesn't it?
It does go very quick, I know.
And I've decided I'm going to let you talk a lot today. But the first thing I want to say is last night, because I switched, I very rarely sit, well, we're watching football every night as it is anyway.
Of course.
But I don't think the game had started, and so I saw there was this debate on, and I decided to watch location instead.
Well, that probably says it all, doesn't
because
it?
It was in Oxford, which I thought was a stretch, because it was Longcott, which is near Swindon.
Well, that's not Oxford.
It was this poor lady who was taken to Barton, and then they shipped her out to Brackley.
That's a long way.
So I think that's Northampton.
There you go.
So I watched the property programme.
Yeah, hot off the news property programme. Well, no, but you know what, Simon? That is important. Seriously.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the polls are still really in the same positions, really. So Labour are massively in the lead, and the Conservatives are lagging.
Yeah.
In fact, they've had some of their worst numbers ever. And Rishi Sunak wanted people like you to watch this and say, right, that's it, I'm going to come out and back the Tories. And actually, you just watched property programme.
But so, anyway, the headlines, what you said that it was sort of going over old ground a lot now. Sunak's coming out, he hit the tax thing of trying to say what it's going to be another $2,000, isn't it? It's unproved. It's hard to prove.
The calculations that the Conservative Party have done claim that everybody will be hit with a £2,000 tax rise, but you know, politicians get into all these assumptions and all the rest of it. I mean, look, the main message he's giving is you're going to be taxed more under the Labour government, which could be true, but it's a very, you know why it's so hard for anyone to really listen to that is because everybody's taxes went up under the Conservative government.
Yeah.
So basically, people are probably sitting there going, well, you did it, and a lot of people don't like what's happened to the country, so they think, okay, I don't want them, might as well give the other guys.
Yeah, and I think we started off a couple of weeks ago. You know, we actually headlined a bit with CGT, and because there wasn't anything obvious that was being said. I mean, we have looked at a little bit more detail now. There's a few interesting nuances. I mean, agricultural property relief.
Before you get into detail, no. I want you to go into detail because it's very technical, but it could have a big impact.
Wow.
Before you get into it, where it came from. The Guardian, so left-leaning newspaper, talked about a document circulating within the Labour Party that looked at some costings of possible taxes that could rise or ways of raising money if they don't get the growth that Rachel Reeves is obsessed about getting. So basically, how are they going to get some money into the government because we've got so much debt? How do we pay for things? And one of the potential ways of raising money is these changes to inheritance tax. Now, you explain what they are.
This is where we were going back when we originally spoke a couple of weeks ago. And we sort of like, we're not going to do VAT and we're not going to do PA. What we might mess with that a little bit, but we talked about these being the 45% of the coffers type things, and we talked a bit about entrepreneurs relief. It seemed to be a very, very low earner for them. Sorry, business asset disposal relief is now known when you're selling shares in your own company. But some of these other nuances that are coming out now about things like agricultural property relief or what was business property relief, which is now business relief, which is to do with inheritance tax. We're obviously looking at smaller little ways of building up to a bigger figure.
But according to this document The Guardian reported on, I think some of these changes to what Simon mentioned there, you know, talking about raising £2 or £2.5 billion. Now, that's not actually a lot in the scheme of things. We spent almost over 400 billion in COVID. But they need to make enough sums add up. And,
also, a lot of these things, and we'll probably come to summarise at the end about a couple of key things that you think that when we get close to an election really get close, a week away, that start polarising people's opinions, which actually might be nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
Agricultural property relief. I mean, Clarkson went on about this, and it's like this thing that if you've got it's an inheritance tax thing. If you're actively managing a farm, you know, you can pass it on, and there's no inheritance tax issues with it. Apparently, wealthy people are now buying farmland, and presumably and probably just letting the farmers, you know, the farmer then becomes a tenant or whatever kind of relationship, and so of course that's an easy one.
So it's a way for wealthy people to, you know, avoid inheritance. Well, avoid's a strong word.
Yes.
It's a way for the inheritance tax burden. You could get some relief potentially. Now there may be good reasons to do it. There may be genuine reasons to do it. Who knows? But we're just saying that it's one of those reliefs. It just exists. That land which is actively farmed can be passed on.
Can be passed on without any inheritance tax issue.
And that could be something a Labour government could.
Well, they would change. They'd be all over that, wouldn't they? I suppose it's one that stop rich people doing things.
But farmers aren't all rich.
Well, no, of course they're not. No, farmers are hugely cash strapped when it comes to turning a profit.
But the other thing for your clients and my clients is the other part of that. It's not just agricultural relief, it's business relief. So this is where you pass on your business to someone.
Which was called business property relief. Why they have to change the names of everything? Why have to change the names of everything all the time?
Just to make it look
again, this is to do with the shares in your company. You basically could pass them on outside inheritance tax to other family members. There is a restriction in place if you're holding lots of cash.
Right. Is there a number on that?
No, they basically think, they say if you've got more cash than you need for your working capital requirements, which is what you need to pay your creditors and run your business and all the rest of it. If you've got excess cash, they restrict this business property relief by 100%, by 50% anyway.
Which is obviously to stop people just
accumulating large amounts of cash in a business
and claiming
and avoiding the IHT on it.
Yeah.
And so that's always been there, and a lot of the time the money is needed for working capital, investment or whatever.
So does that come to a decision by HMRC effectively, like a judgment call on? Do they have to talk to you about your working capital?
It's a bit of a grey area one.
Okay.
I don't think they get too excited about it. A lot of the time I think you can justify it. But again, but Labour, the Labour thing is it's just bang on. It's
gone. It goes.
It goes, and there's no, And then the other big one. I mean, we already are. We talk too quickly. And we get everything in, but the other one is actually about gifts.
Yeah.
Because of course everyone knows this whole. Inheritance tax is hugely complicated, but one of the main things that most people remember is give something away, 7 years, I survive, I'm alright, no inheritance tax.
Basically, if you gift something and you survive another 7 years, you don't have to pay inheritance tax. Yeah. Your estate doesn't have to pay inheritance tax. And it was on the gift. And
it was at the end of this article, and it was the final sentence. But I mean, if that does go, I mean, you make it a point. What if you give something away when you're 30 and you pass when you're 80, 50 years later on? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Is that suddenly going to get called into into tax? I mean, it's so those what I think we're saying about those IHT things is they might not seem like very much. They don't seem like they're necessarily going to be a big earner, but they're going to be things that are really, excuse my French, piss people off. I mean, they really will.
Well, no, you say that, but here's the thing: who is your constituency? So it might annoy people who look to be very rich or asset rich. They might be cash poor, but there's people in the country who wouldn't have any assets to pass on.
No.
So they might think, great, if if I can get my doctor's appointment tomorrow because you can spend money on the NHS. Because you got money off guys with land and houses. They don't care. They'll actually be delighted.
True. Yeah.
And even more relevant, as we're recording this, junior doctor strike has begun today. 5 days of striking, and that's just before the election, and it's. Yeah. We all know the NHS is on its knees, and that's something the next government, like a Labour government, will have to address. It's not purely a matter of money, of course. A lot of it is they can't get staff, as a lot of places find, including our businesses.
Well, I think, look, coming to summarise on where we are now, I mean, there's always the tax issue.
Yeah.
There's the migration issue, which we actually haven't really discussed, but
that's a big topic for people, isn't it?
That's always there. The NHS is always there.
Yeah.
I think defence, perhaps. I mean, not much has been said about defence, has it? I don't know.
Well, it hasn't. Like, interest. So it's actually been a big drop. It's funny you haven't noticed it because the Tory party want you to be worried that Keir Starmer wouldn't be as tough on defence as the Tories would be.
Which then I think nicely brings us to two things that have happened. The political. One's kind of defence with Rishi Sunak's D-Day. Yeah.
So here we are talking about this every week, but. I look at this forensically because it's what my business focuses on: political risk in financial markets. But I look at they've got polling of like what have people heard about, what's cut through, as they put it, what's cut through to the electorate. The top two stories that people have spotted is Rishi Sunak leaving D-Day early.
Yeah.
And this betting scandal that again you may well indeed have heard about, which is all to do with some. MPs and Conservative Party activists and even police officers who are close to Rishi Sunak apparently
taking a punt on the
day of the election before he announced it, and did they know that ahead of time? And it's just sort of dragging in lots of people. You know what's terrible about that story? Generally, the general issue with that story is it just makes people sick of politicians. It just makes them switch off and watch occasion.
Yes, it does.
So good news for Phil and Kirsty. Is it?
Well, she lives in Burford. They actually were in Burford at one point.
Oh, where she lives
in Burford.
So good news for Phil and Kirsty. Less good news for Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak.
And on that point, are we doing another one, or is that it now?
No, we'll do one on
We'll do one more on the day.
We'll do one on the day.
We're not going to be at Leander watching the regatta.
Oh well, we might be there as well. We might have to do it the day before then.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Au revoir.